Hi everyone, this is Michelle Markey with Medina Domestic Art Studio, and today I'm going to use some different products than I have in the past. Not only will I be using things like jacquard textile, fabric paint, Dynaflow acrylic paint, which is actually acts more like a dye, as well as some of the Suconico inks. And last but not least, I've actually put some of my fabric medium in this spray bottle, and I'm going to demo today how you can use it. We're going to do these leaves here in kind of a fallish type of color, since, believe it or not, it's coming up on Labor Day, and even though Texas may think it's still summer, the rest of the country will soon be seeing autumn here in the next few weeks. So I thought I'd try some different products and show you how you can use different things. The other thing that I'm going to be using is, instead of regular paintbrushes, I've got a set of makeup brushes. Yes, makeup brushes. And I have to say, these have proven to be quite a fun thing to play with, as they have all different kinds of shapes and sizes, and you can use them for different techniques. So I'll be pulling out a couple of these here in a minute and giving you some ideas of how to use them. The very first thing I want to do is, I'm actually off camera here, I'm going to give myself some of each one of these colors and put it in a paint pot. And if you'll bear with me here for just a minute, I'll get them in the paint pot and then I will show you what this all looks like. Part of this is a new series of classes that I'll be teaching here in the future on how to do backgrounds and fills. I think today this would qualify as a fill. So stay tuned while I get this all out, and then we shall talk about exactly what the purpose of each one of these is, in addition to, you know, why you would do this, say, versus some other techniques. This is, again, just a way to increase your ability in coloring on fabric, and using the various different tools that are out there. Now, some of this stuff I do sell on my website, some of it actually I don't. And I'll talk about which ones I do and which one I don't. But first and foremost, here's what I've done. This and this are both Dynaflow. This I actually do sell in Exciter packs, and I really like this. Even though it's classified as a paint by jacquard, it actually acts more like a dye, and you'll see that here in a minute. Now, speaking of inks, what I have back here are the Suconico inks, and these are in fact true inks. So really what I have done in the past when using these is I mix them with fabric medium, but we're not necessarily going to do that today because, and I'm going to just set these aside here for just a minute, we're actually going to spray, yes, we are actually going to spray our fabric medium on here. Now, if you're using your own brand of fabric medium, such as you purchase at Hobby Lobby, you may want to thin it down slightly. And when I say that is, if you have a bottle about this size, which I'm going to say is roughly 1.5 ounces, you're probably going to want to put maybe a teaspoon of water max in with a container this size and shake it really well so that it gets completely blended. If, on the other hand, you're using or are interested in finding out products that are, say, more practical for this kind of purpose, my first recommendation is Golden GAC 900 fabric painting medium. This is some of the thinnest fabric medium out there. I apologize for the grody bottle. It gets used very frequently, but this is what I have found to be the thinnest out there. It's not cheap. This bottle alone is probably about 20 bucks, but as you'll see, it goes a very, very, very long way. Okay, without further ado, here's how we're going to get started. Now, this whole thing, by the way, this is an embroidery library pattern. I really think it's quite appropriate. I'm trying to lean more into getting a landscape kind of series going, and this is kind of one of my first attempts. I've practiced a little bit with this technique, but I really wanted to do it on a work today. So here's what I'm going to do. Just in the leaf area, I'm going to just kind of spray it lightly with the fabric medium. You don't want to saturate it. That should be enough. And try to keep it basically within the leaves. Now, I'm going to pull out one of, let me see if I can get this so you can see it. This is kind of, I don't know what kind of brush this would be called in makeup world, but to me it looks like a small stencil brush. And I'm going to first start out with a jacquard, and let me show you again what I did. I just dipped it in and pulled up some paint onto the brush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dabble it across the work here. And I don't need to be careful. I'm just trying to get a mottled effect. But what you're going to see as I lay this down is anywhere I actually covered with the fabric medium, it will spread slightly, but not too bad. Part of the reason I do this is, number one, because I do want it to spread some, not a great deal. But I ultimately want this to be kind of a watercolor effect for the leaves. The minute I saw this pattern, I thought, oh my gosh, this would look so good. It's kind of like a Monet type of thing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and I'm not even gonna wash out my brush. I know that sounds scary, huh? But I don't mind getting the yellow as I now pick up some, and look how nice and absorbed that color becomes. So again, I'm just going over the same area that I just did with the yellow. Again, dipping my brush in and just dabbing it with this makeup brush, which I really like. The makeup brush, I think, holds a lot more liquid in it so that it actually allows me to go further with the paint that I have on my brush. You can also see too, by the way, this Dynaflow is wonderful. It truly is more like a paint, and you can mix this with fabric medium, but it also acts like a dye. I wish I could explain this. You can go to YouTube channel, look for jacquard products, and they have a wide assortment on the various different tools. I find jacquard overall is one of the better ones out there for fabric painting type of tools. Now I'm almost done, so I'm going to consider this done. And now let's move on to the Sukaniko ink. And again, this will absorb. See, it just really acts like a sponge. And coming in here and putting in some of the red. And you can see I'm not being super careful, just dabbing, you know, where there's some leaves. Oh, look how nice, good spread that is. The inks will definitely spread much further than the paint. So again, just be slightly judicious as you're doing this. But I think what we're trying to create here is kind of a more artistic effect. And for those of you who watch on a regular basis, I don't know that I would consider this to be an intermediate process, but I would suggest that you have some background on coloring on the fabric first. Let's get a little bit more red up there. Okay, last but not least, this is a burgundy. And I'm going to try to be slightly careful with this because this is going to be, oh no, that's great. Look at that. Just get a little bit on the top, and it just gives you that little darker color as the leaves are changing. Oh, y'all, I am so happy with this. This is great. Now, I don't care that there's still some white in here. That's okay. You know, if you want later on, you can go back in and fill this in yourself. But I personally think this is fantastic. I am extremely happy with this. Again, who cares where the color lands? Maybe make sure you get a little bit here on the outside. Maybe even outside of where the leaves are, just to kind of give it a cloud color effect. You know how leaves can be. And there you have it. That's it. Now, what I will do before I move on to say either coloring the sky behind it or coloring the sky in the background, this needs to dry. Now, you may be asking too, well, what about the fabric medium that you sprayed and got on the outside? And I'm going to pull this up so that you can see, possibly, you can see how it's still wet up there at the top. I'm just going to let that dry. I personally don't think it's going to be an issue. As I have mentioned before in my classes, this cotton sateen can take up to about 3 layers before it finally says no mas as far as any more color. And truly, as light as I spritz this, I don't think that's going to be an issue. So stay tuned. Part 2 will be finishing the rest of this particular scene. Again, if you would like to see or shop at my store, it's www.medinadomarts. That's MEDINADOMARTS.com. Thanks for watching.